Hello, I'm Dr. Angie McCartney.
And I'm Ruth McCartney.
Welcome to TeaFlix,
where each episode's intimate conversation features a fascinating guest across the spectrum of Beatles world, pop culture, Grammy winners, the music industry, chefs, producers, music stars, actors, and more. So bottoms up and join us as they spill the tea on TeaFlix. And it says, we are live once again.
Oh, once again. Good,
Jolly good. Happy Tuesday.
Yes. Hi, folks.
Hi, everybody out there in TeaFlix land. We hope you've got your kettles on or your corkscrews out, depending on your time zone. And like I said in my little stand-up, boy, oh boy, we're really sending thoughts, prayers, and don't shovel too much snow to our friends in the east and the bomb cyclone world. Look out, Karen in Scotland and Brendan in Ireland. It's coming for you next. So Here we are today. Hi, Rick. Hi, everybody. Many of our regular viewers will already be very familiar with today's guest. She's very famous in Beatle and author circles. Jude Southerland Kessler is an American author and widely recognized authority on John Lennon's life and the Beatles. She's best known for her ambitious John Lennon Series, a planned 9-volume historical narrative biography chronicling Lennon's life in detail, the latest being, it's so heavy, you get your workout, the fabulous Some Forever. The detail in these books is, every collector should have the whole set. She was born in Alexandria, Louisiana, and you'll hear the fabulous accent. I wish I could do that. I know, accent. It's lovely. It's gorgeous. Yeah. She completed 2 college degrees in English and history at Northwestern in just 3 years. Underachiever. Slacker. No, slacker she is. Yeah. And went on to earn a master's degree in English from the University of Maryland in 1976. Early in her career, she taught English at junior high, high school, and college levels, including positions at the University of Maryland and Troy State. In 1986, Jude began the decades-long project of researching the John Lennon Series. And if you look across the bottom, you'll see that's her website going across the bottom, thejohnlennonseries.com. She amassed an extensive collection of Lennon and Beatles materials, books, interview recordings, periodicals, and more. She's made repeated research trips to Liverpool and London, interviewing many of Lennon's childhood friends, early bandmates, and associates. Her first volume, Should Have Been There, which I've got that here too, was published in 2007 after more than 20 years of research. Oh. And here it is. Ta-da, ta-da. You see, I told you I'm a fan. It reads like a narrative history, but it's thoroughly documented with annotations, interviews, and reference material. Subsequent volumes include Shivering Inside, She Loves You, Should Have Known Better, and Shades of Life Part 1, each charting key phases of Lennon's life and the Beatles' rise to fame. Beyond her books, Jude is active in the Beatles community as a speaker, columnist, and broadcaster. She's co-hosted podcasts, including She Said, She Said, contributed to publications like Beatle Fan and Culture Sonar, and appeared on radio programs such as BBC Leeds and ABC Australia. She's also been an official blogger for the Fest for Beatle Fans and served in leadership roles at Beatles symposiums and festivals. For over 30 years, Jude has been regarded as one of America's foremost experts on Lennon and Beatles history, and her narrative approach blends meticulous scholarship with accessible storytelling, earning her a dedicated following amongst Beatle fans and scholars alike. She lives in Monroe, Louisiana with her husband, Rand, and remains actively engaged in research, writing, speaking engagements, and podcasts, and writing more books. You'll be happy to know. You can learn much more at thejohnlennonseries.com. And without further ado, hey, Jude.
Hello. That was so sweet. Thank y'all very much. And you are, without a doubt, the single most organized podcaster. I mean, you guys have it all together. We have sound checks. You let me know ahead of time. You have reminders. Oh, that the world would be run the way you would run it.
Oh, there's no escape.
Thank you very much. McCartney Studios is actually a production company, so we kind of do this for a living.
You do a great job.
I do all the accounts. I send the invoices out to clients, and if they don't respond quickly, I send them what is called a gentle reminder, and I sign it the ankle biter. And they'll get on to Ruth and say, tell the ankle biter I'm going to pay this afternoon. Get off my back.
I just love that so much. And I love that you have on your St. Patrick's Day green. I have on my green.
Yes, it's almost like it's telepathy, dude.
I know, in a green teacup.
We must have that ESPN thing.
That's it. The Aspen.
So, yeah, listen, for the benefit of our newest TeaFlixers, what first drew you to the whole John Lennon thing? You know, at what point did you realize this would be a long-term literary and research commitment? Because God knows it is.
It is. It's this coming up in May the 3rd will be my 40th year of doing this. And so it's been a long, I mean, it's my life, you know, that's what I do. But no, I mean, I was a John Lennon fan. I know you've heard the story so many times that if I tell it again, you're going to jump off a bridge. But you know the person that the girls that came up to me in elementary school and told me I had until recess to fall in love with one of the Beatles. And here I was this nerdy little girl that, at recess, I would go to the library to shelve books, and I closed down the library. They had to throw me out. My mother would say, go out and do something with people and get your nose out of that book. So I wasn't really familiar with the Beatles, and I had 2 hours to fall in love. So I picked George, and I could tell that my friends were so disappointed, but his way he was standing with his arm like this, reaching out, and I thought, oh, he looks cool. I went home that night and I called all their big sisters and said, okay, obviously I disappointed people today. So tell me about all of these Beatles and who they are. And they started going into the whole, well, John is this and Paul is this and Ringo is this. And I said, oh, wait a minute. Wait. John is the smart Beatle and John likes to read. John.
I picked John.
And that, of course, and I was only 9 years old, so he's been with me for quite a long time.
That is
and,
wild.
I thought I was going to write one book. And when that book you were just holding up should have been there, when I got to page 800 and he was only 21 years old, I said, I don't think it's going to be one book.
Lord.
So then I thought, well, 3, and then Adam Forrest, who ran Beatles News for years and years and years and years and years, said, how about 9 books for number 9? And that's what I'm shooting for.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Is wonderful. I see. It's kind of obvious, isn't it? Duh. I showed it right in front of my face, and I've never
thought of it.
I've never
before,
thought
no.
of number 9.
I've often wondered. I wonder why she chose 9.
Oh, duh. It only takes 40 years, doesn't it? Only takes a hot minute. Film director Simon Weitzman is saying Jude is one of the most incredible people I have ever met. She's just extraordinary in every way, an absolute one of a kind, isn't that?
Well, listen, that's high praise from Simon. His new film is incredible, and if you guys have not seen it, the love letter.
We're in it.
Oh, you are everywhere. You're everywhere.
Oh, I know.
Like Savoir Faire.
I'm like the smell on the landing. I just won't go away.
It is so. Within just the clip, I saw at least 5 or 6 people that I knew in just the clip. It's so exciting. It's like old home week. You see all your friends and buddies.
Well, that's it. I'm definitely sad about Beatlefest taking a break, but hopefully they'll regroup and come back. And because it really is, Diana always says, hello, family. We see people on here every week that are just, they're regulars, and this is how we check in with each other. And it's just a real privilege to be the sort of, the water cooler, the gathering post.
That's right. Yeah.
So thank you so much for making the time, because I know the fans have been really looking forward to seeing you again and talking about this new book. I wanted to go back a little bit in researching Lennon's life. What were the most surprising discoveries you encountered, either in private letters, interviews, archives, whatever? What raised your eyebrow the most that you learned about John Winston?
I guess the thing in the 80s, right after John passed, he was so deified, and he was the peacenik, and he was always pictured in the white suit, and I think there was a white dove on his shoulder and all of that. And then as some of that wore off and we moved into the 90s and beyond, on Facebook, you'll see a lot of comments about, John wasn't a good father, and John wasn't a good person, and John was not nice, and John hurt this person's feelings and that person's feelings. And so here's what I've discovered. John's a man. He can be really sweet.
Yep.
When he used to see those girls out in front of the cavern queuing in Matthew Street in the cold, he would give every penny that he had to buy food and have it passed out.
Wow.
As far as he could, so that they would be, because they couldn't go and eat and queue at the same time. He used to ride the bus with Cynthia's good friend, Phyllis Mackenzie, and he noticed that she never ate lunch. Well, that's because the money that she would have used to eat lunch was her bus fare. So
Right.
before she got on the bus, he started paying her bus fare. John did a lot of sweet, kind, good things. I think he taught one little girl how to ride her bicycle.
That would be me.
That
Indeed.
sure would be you. Yes. But he had bad days, and he had every single reason to have bad days. I mean, the trauma that John endured when, for very complicated reasons, Julia was forced. We know it now. We didn't know back then, but she was forced to surrender John to Mimi. Pop Stanley got involved. He thought that John wasn't living in a responsible home. I mean, remember, this is the 50s. We're not the 40s, the 50s. We're not talking about today. And so she's living in sin with Twitchy, John Dykins, and so he said, you're not going to raise that little boy. And so just that alone, being reared by Mimi and his father going away, he doesn't know where his father went. Mimi won't tell him. She won't explain anything to him. That trauma, losing Uncle George when he's 14 and a half, about to become a 15-year-old who needs a male role model. Right. And there's no explanation. They have the funeral before John comes home from Scotland. He doesn't get to say goodbye. Yeah. And then his mom coming back into his life, bonding, becoming best friends, and then she's hit by a drunk driver and killed.
Right. I think it's like forbidden fruit, isn't it? What you can't have is what you do want. And I think, if you've been to Mendips, as we all have, it's a very buttoned up middle class, take your shoes off before you go on the porch, and yes, ma'am, and please, sir, and thank you, and all of that stuff, which is great. I mean, and kids do need discipline, and they need to learn manners and so on. But I think, having his mom being a fun, crazy, out there character and playing the banjo, that was obviously what he was forbidden from having, is what he's going to want the most.
That's right. That's right. And just that love, I had her, she didn't want me. And you hear it in all the songs, when that day that she leaves him at Mendips and walks away crying, tell me why you cried and why you lied to me, because she told him she wasn't going to leave. And then, of course, she does. Right. You hear it in the songs over and over and over again. That trauma would have stopped most of us in our tracks. Right. And yet he goes on to form a band. He goes on to push that band to the toppermost. He goes on to make the music of our lives. Yeah. Look, that's pretty amazing. So that's what I learned. He's not good. He's not bad. He's just a person, just like the rest of us.
He has feet of clay. Yeah. I mean, that's
right.
That's the thing, Andrew's researching.
Yeah, I mean, he's become almost mythical, hasn't he, in popular culture?
He has.
How do you approach sort of separating the legend from the human being in your books?
Yeah, that's a tough one, because you've got fans of his are going to obviously be your customers, and they're going to buy the books. Yeah. But you, as a historian, you have to lay it all out, warts and all. You have to tell the truth.
Both sides.
It's a real, as a writer, I would imagine that's a real dichotomy of how far do you go with the reality whilst not, speaking ill of the dead, let's say.
Right. And, up until this point, I haven't had much that's really terrible to say. Now, I'm right now entering 1966. And 1966 and beyond, we're going to have some difficult years.
So,
But
yeah.
I'm in the year where, for the very first time, he's tried LSD, and where it made Cynthia sick and nauseated, and she couldn't wait for it to get out of her system. It made John free. He felt relieved of all that depression that was pushing him down. He felt happy. He felt empowered. And so they are going to begin to split. They are going, not because they don't love each other, they love each other very much,
Right.
but because he wants to pursue a different kind of life than she wants to pursue. So that's going to be, in 66, we're going to start to have some things. This is what I do when I get to any topic, whatever it is. Let's see what I have my notes for. Okay. So here are my notes on just the Maureen Cleave interview of John.
Gee.
I mean, like 70 pages of typed notes. And I use all of these books behind me and more that we can't see on the walls in front of me, and research and research and research and research and research until I'm blue in the face. And then finally I say, I've got to stop and write this chapter. And like the Elvis chapter, when the Beatles meet Elvis, I had 120 pages of notes. Everybody says something different. No one tells the same story. Yep. So you try to cull by looking at, what do the primary sources say? What is repeated over and over? What is utterly preposterous? It is just so difficult.
Well, and then
have to do that.
In the Elvis situation, thank God you've got alive and kicking and just thriving Ivor Davis, right? Because he was
Ivor Davis. Yep, it's told through Ivor's eyes. We see Ivor pull up in his reporter's car, and we see the other reporters who are outside the gate envying Ivor because only 2 people got to go with the Beatles to go meet Elvis, and Ivor's one of those 2. And Ivor describes this, and Ivor was so kind to give me many interviews about what happened that night. So you see what happens through his eyes, and he's standing right there as all this is going on. It's so important. What I've tried to do is to tell each vignette in the new book, In Some Forever, through the eyes of people who were there, and to tell their stories. Like, one of the people is a little girl from Shongaloo, Louisiana, named Catherine. Shongaloo, 150 people in Shongaloo. It's a suburb of Spring Hill. She mowed yards and babysat and did everything she could do to get enough money to go to Houston and see the Beatles in the summer of 65. And she got an aunt that was willing to go with her and chaperone her and take her over there. And just going to Bossier City, Louisiana was an adventure for her. That was the big time. Imagine seeing your first skyscraper when you get to Houston. And imagine, she actually wrote to the Spring Hill newspaper and asked them if she could be a student reporter. And they gave her a tag. And when the people tried to keep her out of that press conference, she shoved her way into that press conference and stood against the back wall. So it's all of these stories that help us cut through the morass of true, untrue, and get to what really happened. It's hard. It's very hard.
Well, and finding these people still alive and compos mentis and willing to talk, that's not an easy task, because it's 60 years have gone by since all this was happening.
That's right.
One of our lovely femme, Diana, she's asking, Jude, do you think John was drawn to Yoko for just the new direction as well as for the nurturing he didn't receive early on?
Absolutely. There's no doubt about it. Great question, Diana. Yeah. I mean, he calls her mother.
Yes.
She gives him an allowance. She's older, significantly older than he is. She will say, well, no, you can't do that. The stars aren't right, or the numbers aren't right, and you've got to do this. And so today you need to go so many miles in this direction. And she is very much that mother. And he is looking for that nurturing. Diana, go back and listen to Julia, because Julia, on the White Album, he is saying to Julia, all of my life, half of what I've said is meaningless, but I have said it just to reach you. But now Ocean Child calls me. Yoko, that's what her name means, Ocean Child. She calls me, and I'm going to go. I'm going to follow her. She's going to become my new mom, my new muse, my new love. And I'm saying goodbye. It's a song of goodbye. It's a really beautiful and sad love song of goodbye to the woman he's loved all his life, and he's moving on. So yeah, Diana, spot on.
I mean, it's such a, thank God for music, because without John having the musical outlet that he did and was able to make a living from, I don't know what his life would have been without it, because he was just a tortured boy, which is why sometimes he would lash out. He was super sarcastic, and he had an incredible, I remember as a child, an incredible command of the English language and an amazing vocabulary for a kid who'd just been to regular Liverpool schools, growing up. And thank God for music, because he would have come to I think much sadder and earlier, couldn't come to a much sadder end, but an earlier end. I just don't know how he would have coped without his art to turn to.
You're right. At that time, you didn't take your child to therapy. At that time, you didn't give them antidepressants.
No.
And Simon Weitzman and I have talked about this many, many times, that John was probably on the spectrum. He was very, very brilliant, knew he was a genius, but knew that no one, I think, is in my tree. I mean, it must be high or low. He doesn't fit in, and he knows he doesn't fit in. And it's a loneliness that comes from being a genius with no one that really understands you. You are so alone. And the one person, well, the two people who did understand him, his mother and Stu Sutcliffe, are gone. And he's very much alone. Now, Cynthia comforts him, settles him, gives him peace, loves him, nurtures him as well. But she isn't on the same limb he's on in that tree. And he's looking for someone who is. It was a lonely existence, a really lonely existence.
I had a lot to do with Cynthia and Julian growing up, because after the divorce, she moved back up to Caldy from, they went Hoylake, and then they went down to Surrey, and then they came back, and Julian went to Caldy Grammar School, and I went to West Kirby Grammar School for Girls, and we used to ride the same school bus, and they'd sometimes come over for tea, and I'd play with Julian. And Cynthia was just such a docile, kind, never harm a hair on a head of anybody. And she just took it, the insults from the fans, being hidden from actually being married to John for the first couple of years, hiding the fact that she was, the mother of Julian, and just being really kept in the background until, I guess John must have spoken up for her with Brian, and she started, going on the road with them to things like, New York and stuff. But she was cut from a different cloth. They loved each other desperately.
They did.
He had sharp edges, and she was just like a cushion.
Yeah, she was serene, wasn't she?
Yes.
Or outwardly serene.
And her voice was always very, love.
Never mind.
It'll be all right. Just have a cup of tea. Nothing ever seemed to get her down, but it must have internally.
Yeah. And in 1964 on tour, he calls her every single night from that tour. I mean, Art Schreiber, Ivor Davis, Larry Kane, all of them testified to it. It's not just one person. He made it a point to go take time and call her, because she kept him centered. She kept him believing in himself, because he doubted himself. I mean, he's like, I don't know if I can do this. I don't know if I can keep this up. And she would say, you can, and you will, and keep going. And you're great, John. You haven't put a foot wrong. And so, she was a very inspiring person to him. But as they begin to, as many couples do this, you grow and then you grow apart.
That's right.
And, she had a little boy to take care of. She could not go out and go partying to the Bag of Nails or ad
Right.
lib.
Absolutely.
She had to think about, there's one, I just wrote a chapter where they're at PJ Proby's house, and I got to interview PJ for some forever. And he is as charming as he ever was, just a charmer. When he hung up the phone, he said, "Little darling, you can call me anytime."
I wonder if he still has his ponytail with the satin ribbon in it.
And he became famous for splitting his trousers on stage.
That's right, he did.
And headlines with that. Yeah.
He wanted me, when I interviewed him, he said, "Make sure that you let people know that was not something I did to be lewd. I was wearing a costume, and it was thin costume material, not a nice suit or anything.
Yeah.
And when I slid, that thin velvet ripped. Well, then the lady that was in charge of the morals committee said, if he does it again, we're going to have him banned." And so then it was kind of like in your face. So then the next night he slid again, and they ripped a little bit more, and she did have him banned. He was banned from performing anywhere in England, really ruined his career.
We should find out when his birthday is and present him with the OG wardrobe malfunction medal. We should get a trophy made for the original gangster wardrobe malfunction. Don't you think that'd be great?
Yes. He is so much fun. I wish you could get him to come on TeaFlix, because
ask him.
Go on.
He is so charming. But, so I'm writing this chapter, and he's having a party at his house. He had a 3-story house in London. He had all the mod cons. He had a record player with records that dropped down, which no one had at that time. That was a big new thing. And so John is having a blast. And Cynthia's like, "I got to go home." He's like, "What do you mean you got to go home?" She goes, "It's 1:00. Julian will be up at 6. I've got to get some sleep." And it's an hour from London out to Weybridge, Surrey. And so Alf Bicknell takes her home and comes back for John at 3 or 4. Their lives were starting to have, they're going to go down 2 different roads.
Yeah. Rick Lathers, our numerologist friend, is asking, and thank you, Rick, for I did not know tomorrow will be 10,000 days since I married Mr. Martin Nethercutt. Isn't that amazing? Rick comes up with these incredible numerology things. He's asking, in all your years researching Lennon, is there one small, easily overlooked moment in his life that you believe reveals the real John more than any of the famous stories ever could?
Okay, so Rick, this is one that most people don't know about, but on the night before the Beatles were to play Shea Stadium, they had performed on the Ed Sullivan Show, their 4th appearance, and they had done a rehearsal that afternoon, and then they did the show that evening, which was taped. And they're nervous because they've got to do Shea the next day. They're very, very, very nervous. Larry Kane interviewed them that night, and he said they were almost sick at their stomachs. They're so nervous.
Right.
And Brian, thinking it will be a treat for them, gets reservations at the Rainbow Room atop the NBC studios.
Right.
Well, that's Brian. It's elegant, it's formal, it's sophisticated, and that's Brian's métier. I mean, he's in his world,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And Paul is love and life. It's his world. He loves it. Ringo is seated next to a lady named Mimi Schwinson, who is a Radio City Rockette. So I'm sure he was reasonably happy.
With the
and
CD
George is
radio.
okay. Yeah.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but was Louise there that night? George's sister? Was that one?
I don't remember Louise being mentioned, but you could be right. I'll have to look that up. I don't remember her being mentioned that evening. So John is miserable. He's just miserable. And Brian gets sort of mad at him and says, why are you what is wrong with you? And I don't know John's exact words, Rick, but here is what he felt in a nutshell, and this is what he expressed. And Brian talked about this. He felt out of place. He felt like he did not belong there.
Huh.
Places like that made him feel small, because when he and Stu sat on the steps of Gambier Terrace, where Stu's flat was, and they watched the Anglican Cathedral being built, it was being constructed when they were at Liverpool College Bar, and they talked about getting to the toppermost of the poppermost.
Right.
That meant rockers, leather, wild, crazy. It meant nothing about going to the Rainbow Room and knowing which fork to use.
Yeah.
And so it wasn't that he wasn't appreciative. It's that it made him feel insignificant. Yes.
When you're talking about la-di-da places, there's a story when Rory Storm and the Hurricanes, were playing and around the same time as the Beatles. Rory had a 21st birthday party. Was it at the Blackpool Tower? I think it was. It was somewhere posh in Blackpool.
Mm-hmm.
And again, Rory and his family were not used to being, in these kind of big posh environments with a separate napkin for dessert and all that kind of stuff, And somebody ordered crepe Suzettes, and they'd all just done a gig. The Beatles were there, I believe. And somebody ordered crepe Suzette pancakes, and, they flambe them with cognac at the end. Well, Rory Storm's mother thinks the joint's going on fire. She jumps up to the cocktail cart, yells, "Bloody hell, the bloody place is on fire." And she grabs
a siphon of soda water.
A Schweppes siphon of soda water and puts the fire
out on the crepe Suzette.
See, that's how he felt. And that kind of contributes to the chapter that I'm working on right now. In 1966, when Maureen Cleave interviews him, because he's trying to prove to this Oxford educated journalist that he is well read and he is savvy and he is smart, and he knows he's not on her level, that she's age is above him class wise. So he's trying to say, look how smart I am. I've been reading this book called The Passover Plot by Hugh Schonfeld. And this is what he says. And he sort of paraphrases what Schonfeld is saying. And of course, it is the Jesus comment that gets him in so much hot water in the summer. So he's trying very hard to not be small. And it had to do with being deserted. He felt he was abandoned by his parents, and he could never get over it with Fred. Fred came back and tried to make it up with him, and for a while they'd be okay, and then he'd get mad at him. They'd be okay, then he'd get mad at him. He just couldn't get over it. So
I mean, and you would wonder, Fred conveniently came back when the money was flowing, right? Didn't want to bring up a son when he would have to pitch in and help Mimi with the groceries and all of that.
He really did want to, and he really offered to do that. And Mimi said, "You're not going to upset this little boy. He is settling in here nicely. And if you continue to bother him and you continue to write and you continue, I will tell him that you are a scum and a horrible person." She threw away the letters. Bill Harry says that Fred Lennon is the most maligned person in the Beatles story. He would never have come back, ever, because he felt that John would think that he was horning in on his money, so he wouldn't come back. But a reporter discovered him washing dishes at a small bar restaurant and said, "I can see who you are. I can tell who you are. Your name is Fred Lennon. You look just like him. You're his father." And Fred begged him not to tell the story. And he said, "I'm going to run the story in the Daily Express." And so John,
I remember. Yeah.
He wrote to Fred wrote to Brian and said, "Can I meet with John at NIMS for 20 minutes? Because I need to give him a heads up before this comes out in the newspaper." Right. And he did. And John walks out of that 20 minutes with Fred, smiling, laughing, in a good mood. And they have an interview immediately afterwards. It's George, Ringo, and John in this interview. Paul's not there because he went to see a sick friend in Liverpool in the hospital. John goes to the interview. And not only does he go to the interview, he's in a great mood and he makes jokes. if John had had a bad meeting with Fred Lennon, he would have been, you know how he would have been.
Yeah.
You know, so
That's-
he liked him. He liked him, and he did not feel like he was trying to take advantage of him, but then he would think he did. And then there was always a voice in his head saying he doesn't really love you, and that was a problem.
Yeah, I mean, you've done so much research. Ange wants to know.
Yeah, can you walk us through your writing progress? How process, I should say, your writing process. How do you organize such a vast amount of historical material and make it into such a compelling narrative?
Well, it is very slow, very, very slow.
I'm sure
because I take all the notes first, and I'll usually do about anywhere, if it's a chapter that you don't need to do a lot of research on, I can probably do the research in 3 weeks or 4 weeks. But if it's, like I say, Elvis, I went on for a full summer. And I do have to finish these books before I exit. So I can't let it go on forever.
Exit through the gift shop.
Yes, exactly. So but I do all the research and then I start to write. So I take all this information and I have the article that Maureen wrote. And so I know the things that she said, John said, which I can use in his conversation verbatim and footnote it because she said it. We're not having to guess. We know that's what he said. My first book, when he was a little boy and a teenager, I can't footnote everything he says because we don't know what he said in the kitchen with Mimi when she found out he'd been skipping school for 3 weeks. We can surmise what Mimi said, but we don't know. Now I know I have so many quotes that I can almost footnote everything that they say. And I turn it into a story very slowly and very carefully because I don't want to make this into historical fiction. I want it to be a documented historical narrative, and that's hard.
Yeah, it's because your books, they're historical books, but they also read like screenplays. So you have such a unique style of any writer that I've ever come across that you footnote everything and give credit where it's due, which is fantastic because a lot of people just steal stuff and don't care, which is unbelievable. But then you actually set the scene and, like there'll be bougainvillea and, hummingbirds and this and that and the other. So, you have both sides of your brain are working, sister, because you have the analytical detective spreadsheet research, whatever side, and then you have the whole completely artistic fantasy side. You are a rare creature indeed.
Well, I don't do enough of the description side, and that I know you're talking now about probably volume 3 when they're on the Costa Azure and the Costa Brava, and I researched those 2 places for weeks. I had photographs and I watched videos and I took notes on the videos because I am a very research oriented person. My buddy, Scott McKinley, who is, he did the wonderful, wonderful audio book of volume 3 of She Loves You, which includes volume 1 and 2. And he said to me the other day, we were chatting last week, and he said, you need to, do more of that. Put that, there it is. He said, put that description that you did at the beginning of that book into more things. So since then, I've really been working on the new book to try. I get so laser focused on telling the correct story so that someone won't say, oh, she just made that up. That's fiction, that I forget to make the story come to life. So thank you, Scott. That's a friend for you.
Yeah, no, and that's part of what I enjoy about the books. I know what I'm reading has been meticulously researched as if it was an FBI project, but then I so enjoy knowing that if you said there was bougainvillea, it wouldn't have been frangipani, right?
Right.
Because it's part of your.
She's getting very horticultural
creative narrative, but just reading. If you go to Jude's website, johnlennonseries.com. And on the latest book, Some Forever, there's a sample chapter, and it's Monday, the 22nd of February, 1965. It's literally 2 days ago and 61 years. And John hated flying, despised it. Nevertheless, he was again bound for an all-day trek from London Airport to New York City to the Northwest Indies, or as the Americans said, the Bahamas. So it just sets it up. We were there, as you know. Well, you want to tell the story, Jim. They just got married the November before in '64.
Yeah, and Jim said, let's not have a honeymoon till after Mike's 21st birthday.
Which was January the 7th.
January the 7th. So after that, Jim asked Alistair Taylor to organise for us to go somewhere. And he came back with the suggestion, why don't you go to the Bahamas? Because the boys will be there filming. So Jim said, yeah, if you think that'll work. So that's how that all came about. Alistair booked us in, and Ruth got of her at the swimming pool. And on the back of it, it says Bahamas Ministry of Tourism.
Photo by Frederick Maurer.
Oh, I love it. It's so cute. So cute.
Yeah. My little
getting out of the pool.
And Angie's handwritten date on the back, 9/2/65. So that was the 9th of Feb. So we were there a little bit earlier. I had my birthday there, the 15th, and George's is, of course, tomorrow, the 25th, if you believe most people. And we had a German chef. Our regular viewers will know this story. There was a German chef at the Balmoral Club, and he made a huge German
chocolate cake,
Black Forest chocolate cake. And on the cover, on the thing for George and I to split, it was a birthday cake. And he said, "Happy birthdays. We love you. Yeah. And instead of he was he wrote J-A, yeah. In German, it was J-A. I wish somebody had taken a photograph
I know.
of that cake. And so George and I split cut into it and smushed cake in each other's faces.
Did Louise Harrison have a sword or something?
I don't remember. I think they were servaging champagne, which I wasn't drinking because I was just turning 5.
Right.
But late starter.
Yeah, right.
Amateur.
But no, I just loved reading the Bahamas sample chapter because, having actually been like Ivo was with the Elvis thing, being a fly on the wall and been there, it was so accurately done. I mean, it was like I couldn't have written it any better myself because even having been there,
And you were there when they were riding their bikes in that circle about going back to the temple, right?
That's right. When they said a man's got to do what a man's got to do, that was the only line. And we were all day at the location.
Oh.
Dick Lester was happy that the lighting was right.
Yeah.
And also the boys had to keep out of the sun because they didn't want them to get sunburned because they were going to Austria.
Obertown the next week or 2 weeks hence.
To do some more filming in the Alps. So they couldn't look suntanned skiing.
Guys.
So they used
That's
to have
true.
in the limo with the air conditioning on.
Yeah.
They could have planned that a little bit better, maybe.
I know.
But as I'm sure you know, Jude, about 10 days before they filmed the Help ski scenes in Obertown, Austria, there'd been a terrible avalanche.
Yeah.
And when the Beatles arrived, they flew to, I believe, Salzburg, and then they drove into Obertown because there's no airport there. And
that's right, yeah.
all of the townspeople were there to greet them, but they were facing away from the limos, from
they
the
had
cars.
their backs to the street.
And one of them remarked, he was like, well, how weird are the Austrian fans? They're not waving at us or smiling at us. They'd all been stationed there by the police to look up and yell avalanche if they saw another one.
Wow.
But they didn't know that till later.
The people didn't know that until they actually got them out of there.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That is just amazing. You guys have so many great stories. And
they're just nuggets, though. They're not, nuggets do not a story make. That's what you do so well.
I think, I thought last night, who am I to go on? They knew John. They interacted with John. You are the real deal.
Well, you are keeping his legacy alive. I mean, Marianne's just asking a very good question. Do you think John knew how handsome he was? I always heard he kept comparing himself to Paul, and he had his, insecurities and doubts. Yeah. I thought he was very handsome too, because he was interesting and he was compelling and he was sardonic and he was witty and he was funny, and then he would be a puppy dog 1 minute and a shark the next.
Yeah, he did not think he was handsome at all. At all. at all. He had a very bad self-image. And the more that the press kept saying the cute Beatle, the cute Beatle, the cute
Yeah.
Beatle, the handsome Beatle, it really got to him. He was very jealous of Paul. And by 1966, where I am right now, Paul, they're all split up. In January of 66, they're all off doing their own thing. And Paul is taking piano lessons at the Guildhall School, and he's going to operas, and he's studying all of the avant-garde and art. And John could not be more jealous. I'm stuck out here in Weybridge, Surrey, and he's doing all this stuff, and he's going out with Stevie Wonder. He goes to his concert, and then they go to the clubs together, and and Ray Coleman says to him, that's sounding a little bit jealous. Right. And he's like, well, of course he was. And that's why he had a hard time inviting Paul to join the band to begin with, because Paul is good looking. He is a leader. He is smart, and he is talented. Do I bring that winning card into my band?
Right.
Because he's going to be a coup waiting to happen.
Yeah, he's going to be two alpha males, right?
That's right. That's right.
It is amazing that it actually worked.
It is amazing. And it reminds me, I think you may have heard me say this before, but the day that the Twin Towers fell, I had to go to work anyway. It was a day that I did not feel like doing that, but en route to work, I had the radio on, and they asked one of the engineers of the building, what caused those buildings to fall? And he said, you're asking me the wrong question. You need to ask me, how did they stand as long as they did before they fell? Because they stood for a long time after being hit by a jet. Yeah. And how did John and Paul stay together as long as they did? They were as different as night and day. John, extemporaneous, just do it, just get it done, Paul. Do it over. I mean, they were different, but they made it work, and they made it work for a long time.
No doubt they loved each other.
They did.
No doubt at all. They fought at times, but they loved each other.
They did.
That's the answer.
They would go out. They would win. Occasionally John would come home and to Rembrandt, where we lived on Wirral, and just to get out of the smoke and the crazy lifestyle. And they'd go on a writing weekend, and they would sit in the dining room, or sometimes they'd just go in the greenhouse and take a couple of stools out there and sit amongst my dad's grapevines and the little frogs that lived out there. And sometimes you'd hear them laughing their heads off and playing guitars or whatever. And sometimes you just hear them going at it like, no, do it this way, no, that. Yeah. It was just, it was chicken or fish. It was amazing when I think now, that was just my big stepbrother, and his mate doing their job. I didn't think about it in terms of, oh my God, a Beatle song is being in our dining room right now.
That's right. That's right. At the end of the new book, Some Forever, he comes to your house. John and Paul both come to your house when they are playing Liverpool in December on the UK tour, because John has no family in Liverpool anymore. Right. Julia's away in college, and Mimi has moved to her bungalow in the South. And so where's he going to go? That after the concert, they give them the day off the next day. Right. So what's he going to do? He comes in and spends that time with you.
That's right. No, absolutely. That was probably when he put his feet on the coffee table and waggled his teacup story. Do you know that one, right?
Yes, but tell that story. Tell it.
I went into the lounge. Jim, Paul, and John were all in the lounge talking, and I went out in the kitchen to make more tea. And I came in with a tray, and as I walked into the lounge, John Lennon lifted up his cup and saucer and just did that to me without looking at me. And I said, "Excuse me," all indignant. When you're little, you get very bossy, And I said, "We have a little word in this house, please," because I was trying to bring this little monster up to have manners. And he went, "Oh, sorry, Ange, can I have another cup of tea, please?"
I mean, really and truly.
And Jim and Paul were both going, "Oh, what's she done now?"
Well, Frida made him get down on his knees, and one of the many times that he would lose his temper and fired her. And he said, "I'm sorry," and she said, "That's not good enough. Get on your knees." I mean,
Yes, my
great.
girl. She has just been to Ireland with Ray
Yes.
Connolly. Did you see that?
I did. I would
Yes.
love to go there. Ireland is my dream place, and she's so that festival looks wonderful. Maybe the three of us should go.
Yeah, that would be good.
Yeah.
Listen, in these days of ice, I don't go outside the door.
Yeah. Which ice do you mean? The one you slip on, or never mind?
Both.
Never mind.
Okay, we said no politics. Okay, I'll take that back.
Yes.
Never mind.
So
Well,
maybe in the future, Jude, let's put that
I
on
would
the
love
bucket
to.
list. Yeah.
I'm going for the very first time to Ireland in June. We're leaving on the 4th and coming back on the 22nd. It's been my dream. I told my second grade teacher that we were going to Ireland, and she called my mother and said, "Congratulations." And my mother said, "Only Jude is going to Ireland. It's in her mind." So,
Oh, you'll have a great time.
Yeah.
You'll have an absolutely great time. So, Ange wanted to know about the time frame. I guess it's just chronological, but
Yeah, tell us about how you chose. Oh God, I've made some notes here, Jude. Give me that, Ruth. Certainly. Tell us, about how you chose the time frame for your latest book. The Somewhere book.
it is chronological. That book that we were just talking about a moment ago, Shades of Life, Part 1, is the first half of 1965, and this monster is the second half of 1965. So these two together, the one that Ruth's holding, and they are 1,600 pages covering 1965. And so I'm just going in order. I'm going almost day by day, and I know there's a bit of hurry up involved, but yes, I am moving through that. The new book covers Shea Stadium, that dangerous, very dangerous 1965 North American tour, where, I mean, it could not have been any more dangerous. In Houston, the fans run at the plane. They have to shut off the motors because they're running at the rotors on that plane. Then they get on the wings where that hot jet fuel, and they're smoking cigarettes. I mean, it was the whole entire tour.
Oh.
San Francisco was so dangerous. The people were folding their metal chairs and throwing their metal chairs on stage at the Beatles. It just was unbelievable. But then they go home and they write and record Rubber Soul. They have the MBE investiture. They have to do the UK tour, which was my favorite part of the book, because I got to interview and talk not only with PJ that we talked about a few minutes ago, but I got to talk with Beryl Marston. And she is so sweet and wonderful. And she's so much fun. And she was on that tour. So I carry you right up to the end of the year, him going to Mimi's for Christmas, 1965. It's Julian and Cynthia and John at Mimi's house. And after Christmas dinner, he stands up, clears his throat, and says, "Mimi, I'd like to make a presentation to you." And I have his words. Fortunately, Mimi remembered them all. This MBE belongs more to you than it does to me. And he gives it to her. And
very sweet.
When he asked for it back years later, she should have said, "No, you gave this to me. No way."
Yeah, belongs to them now. Well, this has been an absolute delight spent. When can we expect the new book approximately? Because I know
2028. I'm really working on it. But may we do a quick toast?
Absolutely.
Since it's St. Patrick's Day, we toast to our Irish friend, Jim Mack, who said "mater and taller," because in this world today, we all want mater and taller. Happy St. Patrick's Day.
Thank you.
It's almost there. But speaking of St. Patrick's, our regular viewers will know that Angie is the author of Mrs. McCartney's Liverpool Limericks and Other Random Irish Haikus.
That's right.
And, we had to write you another little Okay, just a little
Just a
thank you.
little limerick.
So
Here we go.
whenever
I'll
you're
try and get it right this time.
whenever you're sitting comfortably, we shall begin.
1, 2, 3.
You're always a pleasure to see. Should we start again?
I didn't I? Yes.
Screwed it up
Let's get
again.
some new glasses.
Okay, perfect.
Okay. Sorry,
And
Martha.
1, 2,
2,
3.
You're always a pleasure to see.
As we sip on our vino or tea, we were just in the mood to have fun with Hey Jude, whose talents are all they can be.
I love you guys. Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you for having me on the show. I appreciate it so
Lovely.
much.
Absolutely. It'll be on the McCartney Studios YouTube channel, which if you're watching us on YouTube, please smash that subscribe button and hit the likes and forward it to your friends and tell them to buy all of Jude's books at johnlennonseries.com, and we will keep you apprised of when the next one's out. It's about 2 years since we had you on for the last book. So let's not fix a date, but let's book you for TeaFlix when the new book comes out, please.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you so much.
All
I love
right.
you very much. Thank you, guys. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye, Howard.
Okay, bye-bye.
Thanks for tuning in to TeaFlix, and check out Dr. Angie's books, Organic Teas and CBD, at mrsmccartneysteas.com. Toodle pip!